Nick, I want to start here. Draft's right around the corner, obviously. It feels like it's actually been a relatively quiet time for the Saints the past few days. Maybe it's just because there's so many kind of big sports going on here locally. But the draft is approaching nonetheless. And kind of in the background, one of the storylines recently that started to get a little momentum was Hendon Hooker, right? Yeah, Tenenbaum coming out and put him in top 5, being like, if he didn't tear his ACL, we'd be talking about him in that top 10. And then there's Daniel Jeremiah just really basically checking the take box. So where he could be like, I tried to tell you where he was like, what's not to like about Hooker? He's big, he's physical, and I didn't say anything beyond that. But basically, everybody's trying to get their Hooker takes in, right? And now I'm seeing these ideas. You saw Cam Jordan tweeting about it yesterday. Hendon Hooker visiting the New Orleans Saints today, I believe. What is the latest on maybe where you could see the Saints entertaining this, if entertaining it at all?
I'll be honest, I wouldn't like it. And look, I've been Mr. Draft a quarterback for 5-6 years, like probably starting even in like 2014, 2015. I feel like this situation will be a little bit different though, because you kind of had the clean slate situation and you could have went left to Derek Carr or right to Hendon Hooker and maybe not treated Derek Carr like a $35 million quarterback. If they do draft Hendon Hooker, that's kind of what they'd be doing. Like if you're going to draft Hendon Hooker, you could have decided that on March 10th, the day before you signed Derek Carr, saved your money, kept Jameis Winston at his price or Andy Dalton at his price, and had a cheap bridge quarterback, build a better team around him, and then went that way. I think it's a little bit different than like someone falling into your lap. Like if you have Drew Brees and Lamar Jackson falls into your lap, sure, Patrick Mahomes falls into your lap, okay, but like you didn't have to have Derek Carr. So I would be really surprised if they drafted him at 29. At 40, it even kind of feels a little bit like a stretch. But I mean, look, if they take him, I'll give it the room for it to work out. The only thing I'd say is that like it better hit then. If you're taking this guy at 29, and if you're taking him at 29 now, and that wasn't your chosen path going into it, you're telling me it's a maybe. It's not something that you fully believed in because that's what you would have been all in behind. So in that sense, I think even then I'd still look back and kind of say, what was their plan? Like, why did they do this? You have the right lane or the left lane, and they're driving down the neutral ground if they draft him at 29. Sure. It just wouldn't seem like a cohesive vision for me. But it's the most valuable position in sports. And if you have a succession plan and it works out, amazing move. But it's still, you could have avoided the more expensive guy that you signed.
Nick, let's talk about the draft at another position, because the Saints did have Foster Moreau in, and obviously like that physical could have saved his life. I mean, we talked about that last week. Still just a wild story, but that tells you that they were very interested in Foster Moreau. So adding a tight end, you look at some of the latest mock drafts, and Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame is going to the Saints. I've seen 3 or 4 different people have that selection for the Saints. And so tight end feels like a position where they're going to add a player in the draft. It might not be 29, it might be 40, it might be down the road, but tight end still seems to be something they want to add to this roster.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's something that they should kind of make a priority a little bit. I don't think Adam Troutman's going to develop into the receiving type player that they thought he was going to be. Juwan Johnson, I think there's still room for him to grow, and they gave him a nice contract, and the contested catch stuff is getting better. But I think that there's plenty of room for one more guy. And I think, look, I mean, like they got Carr. The move with Carr was to be all in on trying to win the NFC South. So yeah. I think if you could load up the offense with some more weapons, I think that would be a really smart move. And I think that's a good place where you could maybe get some better value in the draft near the end of the first round or at 40 and get that pass catching threat more so than, if you're looking for a big bodied receiver who makes contested catches, it's going to cost you a little bit more draft capital. So that might be a way around it to kind of get that profile of player at a different position that can help you out there. I think the ship has probably sailed on maybe Taysom being more of a full-time pass-catching guy. I think they found the role that he really should be in late last year, and I would kind of leave that alone. Let him do some route running and stuff, but I don't think that should be a primary responsibility. So, yeah, as I look at it, I mean, we were talking about this on our podcast yesterday. I mean, there is really only one position on the roster. If they drafted a guy, you kind of be like, why did they take him? And that would be a center. I really think you can add a player at literally any position on this team. I like where they sit right now, but it is kind of paper thin really across the board. And there are a lot of things that I think they still need to accomplish. Both, they need a good draft, and I think that veteran market after the draft when you can sign guys and they don't count against your comp pick formula, I think there might be like a little rush of veteran guys coming in after that day.
Talking to Nick Underhill at Nick_Underhill. New Orleans Football is the site. Mike Triplett over there at New Orleans Football as well. Nick, in your perfect draft article up there right now, you rank the most significant areas of need as follows: 1 defensive tackle, 2 defensive end, 3 linebacker, 4 running back, 5 everything else. How do the Saints, maybe not how you would approach it, but from what you have learned about this organization, what is their philosophy when they approach the draft behind need versus evaluation, right? Like, do you take the best player? Do you take the best player what you need? Or how do they do that dance?
I think BPA, best player available, is the biggest lie in the NFL. I don't think anybody just drafts off of just straight, oh, this is the best player on our board. Sometimes when it outweighs everything, absolutely. But if your 20th ranked player is a left tackle and you already got 2 left tackles, and your 21st ranked player is a right tackle or, a linebacker, and you need a linebacker, everybody's taking the linebacker. There's 2 axes here. There's the ranking of the players, and there's the need-based axis. And every team's trying to find kind of that sweet spot. So, yeah, I mean, look, if you're picking at 40 and your 20th ranked player is up there and the next guy is 38th, sure, they'll look at that then and just take them and try to figure it out. But overall, and look, Mickey Loomis was saying this last week at the meeting, like, it's just never it's very rare that it's ever just straight up true BPA. And we've seen the Saints draft that way before. They drafted Cesar Ruiz for need, and they move up for Marcus Davenport out of need. It's very, very, very rare when it's like a team taking a player and it's just like, oh my God, like this guy doesn't fit anywhere on the team. There's no path for him to play. That's like a Jordan Love type pick. A few teams every now and then do something like that, but it is very, very rare, I think.
How do you think the quarterback stuff does play out in the draft? And this is like a non-Saints question, like just in the NFL, because there's been so much talk about who's going to go 1. And obviously, like, it still, matters to what you're trying to do for the Saints there, because Carolina's got the number 1 pick. So how do you think, Nick, that's ultimately going to play out with so many different names being attached to that number 1 pick?
Yeah, everything, like, people kind of that are in the know a little bit about how some of the stuff's going to play out at the top. Like, it started out that it was Stroud. Now there's some Bryce Young noise about him maybe being number 1. I know Houston really wants Bryce Young. I know that's their guy. They're kind of praying for him to fall to that spot. So depending on how that goes, it's 1-2. Now, if Young isn't there at 2, I could see Houston going something else, maybe Anderson at that spot. And then, what happens after that, the dominoes fall a little bit. But I think Anthony Richardson's kind of the most fascinating player in the draft, because you watch him and there's things to be scared about and there's things to love. And I think that's kind of like the Josh Allen-ification of scouting, is that now you kind of got to look at traits and how things come together a little bit differently. I think he kind of changed that scouting process a little bit. So it's going to be and Levis, I don't know where he falls. At the beginning of the draft process, a lot of people liked him better than the other guys based on the traits. And now you're hearing that his interviews are a little bit weird and people aren't sure about the person. So It might kind of be like, yeah. I mean, I guess he's just kind of, not interviewing well, and people have left some of these interviews just kind of unsure about what to think about him. So, I don't know if it's like the real life Bo Callahan from draft day situation kind of playing out there, where people loved him and he's falling now because they're finding stuff out. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, and then there's the Colts. Like, they could take Levis, or they could be the team that drops back to get Hooker. So there's just a lot of dominoes here. And I think ideally, one of the things with the Saints here is that if they want people to think they're interested in Hendon Hooker and they really aren't interested in Hendon Hooker, that could be a play to get someone to go ahead of him. So that pushes another player down the board. So there's a lot of stuff at play here, and how these quarterbacks fall, I think, really is going to dictate how the whole entire draft goes. And if they all go early, maybe a pass rusher pushes down a little bit and the Saints then go up. You can probably get to 16, 17, 18 by trading your 3rd round pick with your 1st. So for the Saints' sake, I think it's better if they all go early, because that means other players are moving down the board.
Yeah, I mean, Mickey isn't afraid to trade up, too.
Look, so Levis eating a banana without peeling it, putting mayo in his coffee, maybe those were signs that we just ignored.
Yeah, well, I mean, and then there was the joke about him being deathly afraid of milk, which
that's what I'm saying. That's why he puts mayo in his coffee.
Which I think is maybe not true. Nick, did you just try to drop a draft day reference as if draft day is some sort of cultural touchstone that most people have seen? Because I don't think that's the case. Like, I know you have hate watched draft day out of some, it's almost like a so bad it's good situation. Like, you've watched it multiple times at this point, I know. but I don't know that anybody else knows who Bo Callahan is. Maybe
Oh,
like
no, come on. People know Bo. People know Bo. Bo's damn near a real person at this point. It's like Rocky. Like, Rocky's like a real person. That's a real human
Have
being.
you
can't
heard
tell
of
me
Bo
anything
Callahan,
different.
Jay?
I have not.
I have not heard of Bo Callahan. Boys, had y'all heard of Bo Callahan?
When you refreshed my memory a little, I knew who he was. But
Oh,
not on
lies.
top.
Get the hell out of here.
Come on, man.
Okay,
Come on, man.
nah,
I need the OTB poll out there. Like, people know Bo Callahan, man. Bo Callahan's he's known. He's known.
I know Frank Cushman from Jerry Maguire. You know,
Yeah,
like when
yeah,
he's like,
yeah.
"He's Cush." I know that one. But
No Bo
Well, now
Callahan.
you're just sounding like an old guy now. That's,
I am.
You know, I think we're
I
aging.
know
Yeah.
Big Tom Callahan, who sells the
Hey,
breast
Tommy
brake
boy.
parts. Yeah, who
Yeah.
sells the breast brake parts
Yeah.
this side of Mississippi, but I don't know about Bo.
Nick, I might watch Draft Day just for you.
I was about to say, OTB, we should do a draft day review in honor of this segment right now.
I think so.
What is your opinion on draft day, Nick, in terms of a movie? Like, as somebody who's been in this industry your entire adult life watching draft day.
Oh, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's a horrible movie. Like, the plot is terrible. It's just it's completely nonsensical. But like, I gotta watch it like twice a year, every year. It's become one of those movies.
Okay, Nick, I got one more for you. I don't know if Jake does, but Jake mentioned Carolina trading up, and look, like you said, everything the Saints have done tells you, no, we're trying to win the South. It's a weak South. We want to win the South. Winning division's always good. When you look at the biggest threats, it looks like Tampa's hitting full reset. It looks like the Falcons are doing one of those, we kind of want to be good, but if we're not, we're okay, because then we can go after a quarterback next year. It looks like the Saints are in. What about Carolina? Have the Panthers secretly become, with like the Thielen sign and other ones, are they positioning themselves as the biggest threat to the Saints right now?
If they get a good quarterback, I think they could get good pretty quick. I like some of the stuff they've done. I like the roster they're building. And if Stroud or Young or whoever they take comes in and he hits the ground running, they could definitely be pretty solid. And look, we saw Andy Dalton last year. Like, if everything's perfect around him, you can be a decent team with him as your starting quarterback. He's not going to elevate you to anywhere. But if everything's good, yeah, I think they could definitely be a threat. And I agree with you on Atlanta. Like, some of the stuff they're doing is weird. They're kind of like in this weird duality, kind of what I was saying about like Hendon Hooker. It's kind of like, well, they're signing some old guys, but they're trying to get young at the same time. And it's just kind of like, you're looking at it and you're like, what's the direction here? What's the philosophy? So for sure, I think Carolina is the team that could, you know, if the quarterback's good, they could kind of be maybe the surprise team in the whole NFC. And yeah, I mean, I really do like some of the things they've done so far.
That'll do it. Nick Underhill, every single Tuesday here on Off the Bench. New Orleans.football is the website. We will get that Citizens Bank and Trust poll question up. Have you heard of Bo Callahan? We'll see what the people have to say. I'm saying Bo achieves 15%.
No, come on, man.
Especially if now I want you. I don't want to feel like I'm leading the audience here, Nick. Do I word it just as Bo Callahan, or do I say Bo Callahan from Draft Day? Are you okay with it just being Bo Callahan?
No, let's keep it pure. We'll go Bo Callahan. I think
Perfect.
I like how this is going. I won't tamper with it either. I won't influence it. But I think I'm going to win this. I feel confident that I'm going to win this.
Time will tell. I don't think so. Democracy will tell. New Orleans.football. Go sign up for the site today. Nick, thank you so much, man.
Yeah, take it easy, guys.
All right. When we get back, you got something, Jake?
I'm just looking at Bo Callahan now on Google Images.
I'm guessing
to
that
see if
he's
like maybe it helped out. It is not.
He's got to be the big #1 player on the board, it sounds like, and then something starts to go wrong. I don't know. I kind of want to watch Draft Day now, though. I don't know why my brain works in the way that it does.